Hey, first graders, today we're going to talk about measurement. Now, we talked about measurement a while ago when you got to lay on a piece of paper and then use different things to measure how long you were, how wide you were, how big your finger is, all those fun things. And we used our shoes. So when we used our shoes, that was called non-standard measurement tool, which means it's not the same for everyone. Like your shoe is definitely smaller than Miss Weisel's shoe. So we can't use shoes to describe how tall something is because your answer is going to be completely different than Miss Weisel's. But we also have standard measurement, which is like a ruler. So a ruler has 12 inches on it and it has some centimeters on it too. But in this one, it just has inches. So I can show you what one of those looks like too. I'll do that in another lesson, but this one we're going to focus on inches. So notice how there are 12 inches. 12 inches equals 1 foot. Now, not a foot like attached to you, but using feet, when we measure, that's how we measure different things. We can also use centimeters, which are pretty small, and then millimeters, which are even smaller than that. And we'll kind of talk about those in a little bit as well. But what it's going to do, it says measuring with rulers. So if you have a ruler at home or you have it's like a ruler, but it rolls all up, a measuring tape, you can use that, but you can only use 12 inches worth, okay? So what you're going to be doing is you're going to take this ruler and you're going to walk around your house and you're going to measure different things. So, for example, if Miss Weisel were to grab her pencil, now your pencil might look a little bit different because it's shorter or it's longer, but this tool is the same, even though the pencil is different. So I am going to show you my ruler, and I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Do I measure like this? Yes or no? And you can tell your parents who are sitting nearby. No. Do I start at 12? Do we start at 12 in the when we count? Do we start 12, 11? No, where do we start? We start at 0. Now notice that 0 actually isn't on here because this end part means 0. Then 1, 2, and it goes up to 12. So I'm going to put my eraser side on 0, and I am going to measure this. And it looks like it's just over 7, and it's almost hitting this middle marker. Now, we talked about fractions last week, and if I were to split something straight down the middle, would I make 4 spots or 2 equal spots? And if it's 2 equal spots, what is that called, a fourth or a half? It's called a half, which is pretty awesome that my pencil lines up right over a half. Now, would this be 8.5 or 7.5? Now, if I count, I'm going to go 1 inch, 2 inch, 3, 4, 5. You can't see 6 because it's under Miss Weisel's hand. 7, and then there's 8. So I'm going to say that it is 7.5 inches. Now, if I were to write 7.5, 7.5 looks like this. My 7, because that's my whole number, is big, a big number, 7. But my half is going to be a fraction, which I write right next to it. So I'm going to put 1, because it's 1 part, over 2 parts. So it's kind of a fun way to write how long my pencil is. Now, there's one more thing that I forgot to include in my answer. And we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the year, but we need a unit. We need to label it. Now, I used a ruler, but I'm not going to say 7.5 rulers because that is a lot more than what I used. Now, I have to think about what unit did I use. I used inches. So then I'm going to write 7.5 inches. Now, inches has a couple letters in it, but you can shorten it up. And then abbreviation for inches is IN, in. So I could write 7.5 inches or 7.5, write the whole word, inches. Okay, I'm going to try a couple other things. I am going to measure my Clorox bottle. You probably have some of these at home. You maybe have a soap bottle or scissors or a pencil or paper, and I'm going to measure this. So I am going to put my thing on the table. So that is my consistent. It's flat. And I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to put it up against this. Did I do it right? Did I start at 0? Oh, I started at 12 again. Okay. So I am going to go starting at 0. Now remember, I don't want to go like this and say, yeah, it's 5 inches, because I'm leaving out all this space I don't know about. So I have to put it down on the table just like the Clorox bottle. And I am going to put my finger right here. And then I'm going to pull it away and I'm going to go, oh, it's another half one. Cool. So this one landed right here. So I'll keep my fingers on that. And I'm going to erase my 7.5 up here. I'm going to keep my label up there because we're using the same label. I'm going to count. So 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm halfway to 9. So 8.5 inches. Now this was a lost your marker. But it would be 8.5 inches. So remember, when you write 8.5, 8 is big because that's our whole inch, and then the half is smaller but right next to it. So it's one number over another number, and it's 1 over 2 because there's 2 total parts and we only get one of them. So it's kind of like you're splitting the inch in half. Okay, so that's using a ruler. Now we're going to switch it up and you can only use a paper clip. So if you have a paper clip in your house, you are going to do the same thing. Now remember, when we use paper clips to measure things like our pen, we have to make sure that they line up and we don't just go 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's not counting correctly. So remember, we want to lay it down and then put our finger there so we know, okay, 1, I'm going to lay it down, I'm going to go 2, lay it down, put my finger 3, lay it down, put my finger 4, and I have a little bit left over. Now, if I were to look at what I have left over in this paper clip, I might say, oh, holy cow, it's actually 1/3. So I forgot how many paper clips total it was, so I'm gonna count that real quick again. But I get to write 1/3, which is pretty awesome. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1/3. So that is going to look like this. My 4 is big because that's my total, 4. And then I had 1 over 3. So that's going to be my fraction, 4 and 1/3. Now, did I use inches or did I use a paper clip? A paper clip. So I'm going to say 4 and 1/3 paper clips. So in your math journal on page 186, it has a page that is designed for you to walk around and measure different things and then tell me how many that it was. Now, you're going to do this page and then there's an activity on Seesaw for you to do as well. Okay? Good luck.